Hello and welcome again to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is a separated news segment because there's too much news to fit into my usual frontline update. So it is here as a standalone segment. I hope you don't mind about that. There's an awful lot to talk about because, my goodness, countries are throwing aid at Ukraine at the moment. It's like some kind of virtue signaling brinkmanship. That is brilliant. Love it. Because this is exactly, well, maybe not exactly what Ukraine needs, and we'll talk about that in a second, but certainly they do need this stuff at least. So, what has happened? We'll go as ever to our indicative figures that Ukraine release. Caveat, accuracy, propaganda. Russia don't produce similar figures. Someone did urge me to look at the TASS statements they put out and like add up the figures myself. Don't have time to do that. If someone wants to send me a nice infographic of the figures on a daily basis that Russia claims, then go for it and we'll see what we can do. Right. Okay. So 770 liquidated personnel. That's a big figure again. Certainly above average. 3 tanks, 6 APCs, 7 artillery systems. And someone pulled me up because I did say this is one of my, I think, most important figures because these are artillery pieces that can't be used against the Ukrainians. But someone pointed out that actually, of all the bits of equipment, this is what they got the most of, particularly some of the older uh, legacy pieces of legacy howitzers, and that is true. And I have to walk back my claim there. Actually, you're probably right in that some of these other. I have long said that fuel tanks is a big one, going along with what Trent Filenko says. Armies are logistics, and if you've got no fuel and got no ammunition to fire, then you're pretty useless. It doesn't matter whether you got artillery systems if you don't have ordnance. So yeah, I guess that's a good point. But pretty decent day, it seems, for Ukraine, if that is anything to go by. Right, let's move on to Hungary blocking €500 million worth of military aid in the seventh such package allocated to Ukraine as part of the European peace facility. A high-ranking EU diplomatic source told the Polish RMFFM. This is a big problem. Hungary are a thorn in the side of the EU. They are pro-Russia, and they are using that as leverage to get what they want, which is the ability to operate their authoritarian style of politics within the democratic confines of the EU. They want to do things badly and incorrectly as far as our benchmarks for democracy are concerned. And because they can hold this power over the EU to get packages through to Ukraine, and they are broadly sort of pro-Russian, they can use that greatly to their advantage, still operate in those authoritarian ways, shutting down the press, shutting down freedom of education, even over there. So, yeah, Hungary are a big headache for the EU going forward, and something needs to be done about that one concludes, or at least I do. So yeah, one to look out for. Now, this is brilliant. There was so much activity yesterday, and you have people like Ben Wallace, who's the minister, he's the secretary, minister of defence for the UK, speaking on behalf of sort of the UK government, the MOD, etc., spoke concerning the um, Tallinn pledge yesterday, or Tallinn pledge, which is something I'm going to talk about in a second. It's absolutely brilliant. But just have a listen to this speech. I mean, good on you, Ben Wallace. I'm no Tory, but this guy absolutely like nailed it.
If President Putin is banking on us getting bored this year, he's wrong. We will plan for this year and next year and the year after and beyond. In 2023, it's time to turn the momentum that the Ukrainians have achieved in pushing back Russia into gains, and making sure that Russia understands that the purpose now is to push them back out of Ukraine and to restore Ukraine's sovereignty. Beginning of this week, I announced to Parliament that we will send a squadron of Challenger 2 main battle tanks to Ukraine. We will send at least 3 batteries of AS-90 155 long-range deep-fire artillery. We will send a number of armoured vehicles, including I think it's the Bulldog, which is a variant of the old 432 armoured personnel carrier, thousands of rounds of ammunition, And today I can say we're also going to send another 600 Brimstone missiles into theatre, which will be incredibly important in helping Ukraine dominate the battlefield. So if the message from this is one thing, it's we're not going anywhere, Mr. Putin. We're here for the long haul. We're standing by Ukraine. You need to recalculate. You need to make a change. You need to leave Ukraine, return it to its sovereign borders, and uphold the international law that you say you respect. Thank you.
I think that deserves a round of applause. That absolutely lays everything out, which is we're not in this for Ukraine to not lose. We're in this for Ukraine to win. Russia need to get out of the entirety of Ukraine, and that appears to include Crimea and the Donbass. End of. And we're here to support Ukraine for the long haul. We're here for years if necessary. This is exactly what Ukraine would want to hear. Absolutely brilliant and well said. And the great thing is, it's not just him. They got to who are they? So the UK got together with a whole bunch of European nations to release the Tallinn Pledge. UK, the Baltics, Poland, Netherlands, Slovakia, Czech Republic, and Denmark. This is the text. So I'm going to read you most of it. So these countries have come together to reaffirm our this is from gov.uk. To reaffirm our continued determination and resolve to supporting Ukraine in their heroic resistance against the illegal and unprovoked Russian aggression. We condemn Russia's attacks designed to terrorize Ukraine's people, including intentional attacks against the civilian population and civilian infrastructure, which may constitute war crimes. That's a big statement. We reject Russia's ongoing violation of Ukraine's sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity, and its illegal claims to have annexed Ukrainian territory. We recognize that equipping Ukraine to push Russia out of its territory is as important as equipping them to defend what they already have. Boom. This is huge. Right. I'm going to say that again. We recognize that equipping Ukraine to push Russia out of its territory is as important as equipping them to defend what they already have. This isn't just about helping them to defend. This is helping them win. Right. So this is about offensive equipment now. And this is very explicitly so. Together, we will continue supporting Ukraine to move from resisting to expelling Russian forces from Ukrainian soil. By bringing together allies and partners, we are ensuring the surge of global military support is as strategic and coordinated as possible. The new level of required combat power is only achieved by combinations of main battle tank squadrons beneath air and missile defense, operating alongside divisional artillery groups and further deep precision fires, enabling targeting of Russian logistics and command nodes in occupied territory. This one, further deep precision fires. Whether further means more of the same or a greater ranged ordnance is actually not clear here, and you could probably interpret that as either, because what I'm going to go on to say is that's the one thing missing from the astonishing amount of equipment that has been pledged to Ukraine over the last couple of days, and that's before Ramstein. So therefore, it continues, we commit to collectively pursuing delivery of an unprecedented set of donations, including main battle tanks, heavy artillery, air defense ammunition, and infantry fighting vehicles to Ukraine's defense. This substantial assistance to Ukraine comes from our own national stocks and resources, illustrating the mutual understanding of the severity of the situation and our commitment to urgently increase and accelerate support for Ukraine. Increase and accelerate support. So we're moving up to a different gear now, right? This is super important. Having made this Tallinn pledge, we shall head to the Ukraine Defense Group meeting in Ramstein tomorrow, 20th January, and urge other allies and partners to follow suit and contribute their own planned packages of support as soon as possible to ensure a Ukrainian battlefield victory in 2023. Hurrah! In fact, sorry, here's a mic. Drop mic, boom. I won't properly drop it, it's expensive. I'm not even using it. So, huge. This is brilliant. Love it. Couldn't have put it better myself. And then when you look at what's been pledged, and this is again before Ramstein, so this is before 50 nations have got together in Germany or wherever it's going to be. It was originally in Ramstein to discuss this with, I think, Lloyd Austin being at the head, America probably, and NATO coordinating this to some great degree, but that's hopefully going to produce something, even greater than this. Well, this is huge. Let's have a look at very quickly, what has been, and this is probably there's probably more you can add to this, no doubt. There'll be a lot of smaller stuff like personal equipment, optics, night vision stuff, all that kind of carry on. But here we've got Great Britain giving 14 Challenger tanks, 600 Brimstone missiles. Whoo, that was just an addition yesterday. 30 155 AS90s, 200 BMP, so that's BTRS, so that's um, sort of infantry fighting vehicles like the Bulldog and others. We're not quite sure what the others are. And then Canada, 200 Senator armed vehicles and one Nazam's air defense battery. Poland, 14 Leopard 2 tanks, most likely modification EA4. That seems to be like irrespective of what Germany say. US, 100 Bradleys, 100 M113 tracked APCs, 18 155 SAL M106 A9s, 250 M1117 armored vehicles, 138 Humvees, 100 Striker APCs, and maybe, but maybe not, GLSDB. So ground launch small diameter bombs, maybe, but certainly in a bit of translation issues there. 36 howitzers, 105 mil howitzers, one Patriot air defense protection battery, plus another one certainly in the near future. 6 NASAMs, 18 RSZOS. Let's go and find exactly what that is. That's another term for MLRS. So 18 MLRS. Wow. France, 40 AMX wheeled tanks, Bastion armored vehicles. Don't know how many. Italy and France, one SAMP-T air defense protection battery. They are pretty awesome. Denmark and France, several 155 Caesar wheeled gunships. Could be as many as 18 or 19. And more promised by the French, dozens in 2023. They are wheeled, self-propelled guns with a huge range. Fabulous. Germany, 14 Marders. They are infantry fighting vehicles. Germany, one Patriot air defense battery and 3 Iris-T air defense batteries and 3 TRML radars. So that's they are really, very good as well. And then 2 further radar systems as well. What is this? Denmark, Norway, Germany, I think. 16 Susanna 155 wheeled guns. So again, these wheeled SPGs. Looks like this is Netherlands, US, and Czech, 120 T-72 tanks. So that's where the US and Netherlands have got together and are paying for Czechoslovakia to upgrade these tanks. One Patriot air defense system from Norway, Sweden, 50. Yes, this was yesterday. 50 IF infantry fighting vehicles. They're really good. The CV90s. 12 Archer wheeled SPGs. 100, so Czechoslovakia, 26 to 30, 152 Dana M2 wheeled SPGs again. And I think that's Estonia, 10 155 mil howitzers and 122 D30 howitzers. They're pretty old howitzers, but still useful. So, wow, that is a phenomenal amount of stuff. But arguably, that is stuff they kind of already have, apart from the Challenger 2 tanks, which is a bit of a step up in tank. But again, that's arguably an arbitrary line, but it's just a more modern tank than, say, the tanks they're already using. Everything else there is stuff they have. So what they're doing, what this does is replace stuff that's already been kind of used up or deteriorated or whatever, and add to that so that their capability remains the same, just greater numbers, which is a capability of itself. So there's a greater capacity of this equipment, but it's not adding range and it's not adding significant uh, offensive capabilities to their armored divisions. So we're missing, 200 main battle tanks of a modern variety. So this is absolutely brilliant. Might not be a game changer as far as the type of equipment, but could be a game changer if this can all hit the battlefield, the front lines at around the same time. But you are going to have such a huge training schedule here. You're going to have to bring out reservists maybe to just be able to man all the stuff. Yes, this will be replacing things that have been lost on the battlefield where you've got the people there ready to use it, some of it, but a lot of this you're going to have to train a whole bunch of new people to use. So this will present its own headaches, of course, but these are good headaches to have, I guess. Which is, when you look at it, adding it up, someone's adding it up. I don't know how accurate this is, but 741 APCs, sorry, 741 IF armored vehicles So that would be things like MRAPs, Humvees, and things. 640 APCs, armored personnel carriers. 239 IFVs, infantry fighting vehicles. 134 tanks. 105 SPGs. 105 SPGs. That is for me one of the big ones there. Yeah, IFVs. They put some pretty decent IFVs there, but there's going to be as long as they can get the ammunition to go along with that, which it appears they are getting a fair amount. 72 artillery pieces, 22 air defense batteries. Again, brilliant for that defense against the saturation bombings. This is huge, and Ramstein hasn't happened. So fantastic. So, America, 59 Bradleys to add to the 50. That's 109 Bradleys, 90 Strikers, and this is all the stuff they're giving. So all of this other ammunition, 95,000 105 artillery rounds, 20,000 155, 600 precision guided. So these would be Excalibur or Excalibur type pieces of ordnance. That's fabulous. These are expensive. You don't want to use them willy-nilly, but are really good bits of kit. Um, 6 command post vehicles, 12 ammunition support vehicles. So stuff that isn't the headline that we've just seen, but really useful stuff. Additional ammunition for HIMARS, 22 tactical vehicles to tow weapons, harm missiles, 2,000 anti-armor rockets, 3 million rounds of small arms ammunition, demolition equipment for obstacle clearing, claymore anti-personnel munitions, night vision devices, spare parts from for field equipment, etc., etc. So, as well as the headline stuff, a bunch of other things that, and let's just look at a number of other countries before we get there and what they're doing as well. These are just, I've arbitrarily picked a few. I mean, I could go on and on. Interestingly, German Rheinmetall, which is a defense manufacturer, said they are ready to deliver 100 tanks here. Now, 100 tanks, it would be great. Don't know exactly what they are. They're probably going to be a mixture of Leopard 2s at least and other stuff. But Leopard 1 and 2 by the looks of it, and possibly even Challenger 1s. Yeah, yeah. So they've got hold of that. What happens is, they get sent a bunch of stuff to fix up, and or stuff that's maybe come to the end of its life, and they'll store it ready for if it's needed at times like this, and say, right, we can provide that. These guys are evidently in this for the money, right? So they're well up for Germany giving the green light for everything, because they'll be like, brilliant, this is going to be a profitable year. As Ocean Colour Scene, a band from UK, there's no profit in peace. Is one of their songs, absolutely fabulous song, and sadly it's true. These guys are going to make a lot of money out of this, but that's necessary for Ukraine to prevail, arguably. So, yeah, really interesting that there's a potential tension between the German decision makers and their defense industry, and you could probably argue the same maybe in Switzerland. Uh, Interesting point last night, and Noel Reports reported this, but I didn't see anyone else report this, that Pistorius, the new defense minister for the Germans, has said that he was not aware of any link between the US providing Abrams and Germany providing Leopard 2s. Wow. Right. If that is the case, then you might see the floodgates open at Ramstein today, because that's against what Germany have repeatedly says, or Scholz has said. So, yeah, we'll see how that turns out. This is Netherlands saying that they are willing to actually stump up money rather than provide stuff up front. They don't have an awful lot of kit, so they're more in the business of saying we'll give money for other people's kit. That's fine. So Foreign Affairs Minister Hoekstra said that besides Leopard tanks, Netherlands is willing to supply Ukraine with F-16 fighters if they ask for it. I don't know if that's from their own stocks. It might well be. Writes RTL News. Wow. So going back to that big list and saying this isn't a game changer list, although it's a phenomenal list, that kind of stuff would be game changing. I think. Finland confirmed that they will support Ukraine with an aid package worth 400 million euros for operational reasons and to guarantee the safe delivery of the aid. The content, method, and delivery or schedule of the aid will not be announced by Finland. So that's interesting. They're going to give a record package, I think, or at least a big package, and we don't know what that's going to be. Finland are really stepping up at the moment. Estonia have. So we talk about America and these massive lists that America have given, but Estonia have given the most uh, per capita in terms of GDP, and that's well worth noting. So Estonia has decided to provide Ukraine with the largest military aid package ever provided by them in the amount of 113 million euros, writes the ERR. It consists of howitzers, ammunition, support vehicles for artillery units, and grenade launchers. Again, really fantastic. And that's the last one I'm going to detail, only because I thought I'd mention that because of Estonia is actually, in some metrics, the biggest supporter of Ukraine in terms of ammunition, in terms of equipment, and I think it's equated to something like 1% of their GDP, something like that. It's just huge, huge. Yeah, small country, but it's about what people's ability to support Ukraine is. And finally, what there isn't in that package is your range equipment. There's no ATACMS and arguably no uh, G uh, GLSDBs, and this could be a real problem for Ukraine to achieve the goals that have been so well set out by people like Ben Wallace. So as we see reporter Jack Detch here saying the ground-launched small diameter bomb, one alternative to the ATACMS round, has recently been tied up in Pentagon debate over the long lead time to deploy to Ukraine. I heard last year that it couldn't be done till spring this year. Now, if they'd given it the big yes, the big green light then for sure, then we'd hope to have had that in place, in the next sort of couple of months. But now talking about as long as 9 months, so it could be that the GLSDB that we heard about yesterday being touted as being on the list might not be because of that big delay, which then gets back to this question: what they're going to do about ranged equipment? You can't beat Russia out as easily with the 84-kilometer stuff than with stuff that ordnance that has much greater range. Just give them that. ATACMS, you're phasing ATACMS out. So people say, oh, it costs $1 million a round or whatever. Yeah, but that's been paid for. It won't cost them $1 million now. And if they're phasing it out, they have to destroy them. That's literally free. Like, apart from the cost of transporting it, okay, and training and whatever, ATACMS have been bought and paid for. It is not $1 million a pop. You are going to be replacing it anyway. Get that over to Ukraine. I'm sure American will put a price tag on it, and they'll say we're giving them this is part of the $X million package or $1 billion package or whatever, and they'll put a price tag on the ATACMS missiles because that's how it kind of works. It appears, but a lot of this stuff is in storage. It has been bought and paid for, and actually by giving it to Ukraine, you are saving money in either storing or destroying it. So sometimes the figures about how much this stuff costs can be misleading, I would argue. But something needs to be done about ranged equipment, ranged ordnance, and I hope that Ramstein is the answer. I really, really do. Okay, moving on to something a little bit different, newsworthy for going forward and for understanding Russia and how it can still operate. There's some people saying that actually Russia hasn't really changed all that much in terms of how people perceive shopping and things in Russia. There's still stuff on the shelves. There's still I was listening to Ukraine, the latest podcast that was broadly saying that sanctions haven't really affected people on the ground as much as one might have hoped, because then that puts pressure internally on the Russian government. It's not that you want to give pain and difficulty to Russian people, but it's a way of getting the Russian government to realize they're doing the wrong thing. Well, it turns out that actually, apart from sort of car parts that have gone through the roof, generally the comment was that things hadn't changed too much. And indeed, under 9% of Western countries, companies have withdrawn operations from Russia after the invasion of Ukraine. And some of these are big parent companies that could withdraw just one sort of parent company, withdraw a whole load of different um, labels or different companies that operate under them. Um, and pull them all back in one fell swoop, and that just hasn't happened. And basically, you've got a lot of companies still operating in Russia uh, without having changed anything. So, talking about internally in Russia, this is Moscow, and this has produced a whole load of memes and people taking a mickey. But I wonder whether this is for internal optics rather than actually something that the Russian MOD are afraid of. So they're starting to put Pantsir air defense systems on top of buildings in Moscow, literally just dropping them on top of like high-rise buildings, so that they've got air defense systems operating in clear view of what they're trying to fire at, and buildings don't get in the way. If you had an air defense system on the ground, the radar is not effective, and etc., etc., etc. So they're literally placing them on top of buildings. There's sort of different images of these on top of buildings around Moscow, as you can see there, and lots of people taking the mickey out of this. But the question is why? Why are you doing that? Is it really for air defense reasons? Is it really for? Surely you're not actually worried that Moscow is going to get attacked, or are you that insecure? Are you that paranoid? In which case, that might explain an awful lot of your behaviour, Russia. And we know that Putin is a paranoid authoritarian leader, and that's never a great thing for rational decision making. But or this might, on the other hand, just be saying to the Russian population in a very public way, you guys better be afraid. And that brings them together and unites them. It's like, we're going to get attacked. NATO, those evil NATO and US, it's always the US, isn't it? But then there's Poland, and then yeah, they're all against us. And look, we're going to put these things on top of our roofs. Guys, this is to show that we are all in this together against a common enemy. And the common enemy is everyone else in the world, apart from China and a few other nations who aren't really. But it's about Europe and the US. They are our enemies. Right, you need to get behind the Kremlin and behind the Russian government. We know what we're doing, but it is basically us against them. And you can see that being effective possibly for internal optics. Right, I talked yesterday a bit of strategy here. Talked yesterday about whether there's, because the ISW talks about this, the American think tank, military think tank, Institute for the Study of War, talking about Zaporizhzhia. Zaporizhzhia is this area down the south here, that there is a buildup of Russian forces, apparently, and that they could be preparing for a big offensive in the area. But then there's a lot of indication to provide that actually they're there for defensive capabilities, and they are not necessarily planning a huge offensive from Zaporizhzhia. Well, then there are some saying that according to Ukrainian and US intelligence over the last few weeks, Russia has been amassing forces in Zaporizhzhia, yes, for possible offensive or defensive operations, yes. I guess we found out which one, as there are 3 attacks yesterday in the Zaporizhzhia area, and we'll talk about on the frontline update. Just as a general statement, I don't know whether that is. There are claims that these are just probing attacks. There has been a real uptick in uh, rocket fire, MLRS, and artillery fire in the Zaporizhzhia area. Something is going on there. Is it just defensive, a kind of semi-offensive defensive? Best form of defense is offense, all that kind of stuff. Is that what's going on here, or are they genuinely planning on doing an offensive from there? That, for me, would have been one of the least likely places for Russia to do it, especially since they know that according to them, at least, according to people like Rebar and others, Ukraine has been amassing forces in that area. Well, why would you pick the strongest place to attack? That would be insane. So I think it's probably not offensive. It probably is still defensive, but some people think otherwise. There you go. And finally, the United States Department of Justice, plans to begin the process of transferring some of the confiscated Russian assets to Ukraine in the coming weeks and months. The funds are to be transferred through the State Department in accordance with a recent law, says Andrew Adams. This is fantastic. I want to watch this closely because Britain has decided not to do this because it's too difficult. There are too many legal obstacles in the way, and it's arguably very difficult to turn these big assets, whether it be a yacht, a company, a house, or whatever, turn that into liquid finances and then pump that into Ukraine. There are legal obstacles in that. There are pragmatic obstacles in the way of doing that. And the UK has pretty much said, no, that's not the direction we're going to take. The US has said, no, that is what we're doing. So I think there might be a lot of nations looking on to see how they do that. and see whether that is actually a viable option. Because if it is, brilliant, go for it. That I would definitely suggest that's a good thing to do if you can do it, right? We shall see. Anyway, that's the end of the news today. I'll get onto the frontline updates now. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. You can support the channel in all the ways in the description below. I really do appreciate all of your support and all of the amazing comments. They're just phenomenal comment threads on my videos, and I'm really honoured that you guys choose here to hang out and make those comments. Speaking of comments, someone had a go at me for not answering their comment. It was in the middle of the night. Literally, woke up this morning 7:30 on, look at my comments. Why is there sort of tumbleweed? Why didn't you answer my comment? It's like, dude, I have to sleep. Like, so I'm just one guy sitting at home. I have 4 jobs. So bear with me. You know, I answer more comments than I think any other channel I've ever known. So I am trying hard to sort of build this community and to respond to you, but I can't do everything. I'm just one guy. Anyway, that's just me having a little whinge. Thank you so much. Take care. Speak to you soon.